Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
And it's time once again
to recommend things.
Vince, what do you recommend today?
I recommend a book. Let's see if it's right side up. This is called The 10-Cent Plague, The Great Comic Book Scare and How It Changed America. Or at least that's how I remembered it being titled.
It is. It says so right there.
Indeed. By a guy named David Haydu. This book is absolutely fantastic. I think that this is important for every comic book fan to at least know the contents of this book, whether or not they actually read this book. Mm-hmm. This book, what this has is everything that it says here. It starts from pretty much the beginning of comic books, or comic strips, being formed in newspapers, why they were formed, how they were formed, and who they were formed by, and it moves all the way to the not production code. That's movies. to the comic book code, and all the fallout that happens with that. So we get everything that you could possibly want to know about that in-between period. We don't know everything about comic books because this is, of course, about the Great Comic Book Scare. So you're not going to hear about Ultimate X-Men. Sorry, fans of the 2000s. It's not in there.
Oh, there's other books that stuff's in, though. So.
Yeah, but this stuff, this is fantastic. It has lots of first-hand accounts from writers and artists who became pariahs of their favorite decade, the 50s. Probably not their favorite decade.
They'd like to go back and live in that decade, Vince.
And some of the stuff will just break your heart because it's just people trying to make a living. Whether or not they really respected what they were doing or not, they were crapped upon by the entirety of society because they were, or the entirety of American society, for doing what they were good at, drawing or writing words on paper. So it's fantastic stuff. The narrative, or not the narrative, the prose, or however you wish to say it, the way the book is written, mm-hmm. It's very accessible. It's not so much. It's not so over-the-top, historical, dry text. This stuff, it can be read like a book. You can sit here and read it cover to cover going, okay, this is really interesting. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I've always found horrible about anything historical is that it's so dry, and this stuff is so not.
Nah, it's really down to earth, yeah. I've read about half of it. I never got around to finishing it, but yeah, what I read of it I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Learned a lot.
And if you want to know anything about EC Comics, major part. You find out everything about the advent of EC Comics, all the way to it paring down everything they did to the single Mad magazine.
And it has a really comprehensive history on Will Eisner, and
mm-hmm. It's terrific stuff. I highly recommend it. The 10-Cent Plague by David Haydu. It probably is out in paperback by now.
Yeah, I don't know. Today I'm going to be recommending a book as well called The Last Days of Krypton.
Not the first days.
By Kevin J. Anderson, and this came out a couple years back. I think it's 07, and it is a prequel book. That's exactly what it looks like. It's about the days just before Krypton exploded, and it's really great. It's not considered comic book canon as far as I know. It's not based on any comics, or it's not a novelization of any comics or graphic novels. It's its own thing. It's a standalone thing, and it's Anderson's interpretation of what the final days of Krypton would have been like. Specifically, the relationship between Zod and Jor-El and all the other major players. Jor-El's brother and Brainiac is in this, stealing the capital city, stealing Kandor, and all that kind of stuff. It's a really fun book. It's a really easy read. It's a really quick read. It's for being, several hundred pages. I blew through it when I read it and really enjoyed it. I don't want to give too much away about this, other than to say that and it's been a while since I've read it, but I don't want to give away too much because it's very different from what you might expect. For instance, the way that I'll spoil this: Krypton goes away. Yeah, I know. There is no Krypton by the end of it. I know. Anyway, the way he destroys Krypton is different than I've ever seen it. I will say that it's pretty neat. Anyway, there's a lot of really neat build up to stuff. There's a lot of nice introductory things to other characters that you know from later on and things like that. And Jarell is a wonderful protagonist, very, very, very interesting, very sympathetic character, and worth reading. And you should read it. It's great. Last Days of Krypton.
You know what I find interesting? Just
What's
looking at the cover art of these two things, this is very classic comic book look, and that is very science fiction novel look.
It is a science fiction novel. That's one of the things I really like about it. I especially love the science about the Phantom Zone and stuff like that. Yeah, it reads like a classic science fiction novel. That's very good point.
That's
especially
neat.
Since you haven't read it, and I didn't think to mention that.
Historical looks like a comic book. Comic book, not a comic book.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching us recommend things. Take a look at these books, and we'll see you next time when we recommend other things. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince. Thanks for watching.